This is R1 and 3 Autoethnography with your host, Steven. In this episode, Levi interviews his friend Kaitlynne about her ADHD. Now, I've had this recording for months, I was just procrastinating the editing. On this podcast, we talk about our lived experiences with mental illness. So before we get started, you gotta know that we are not medical professionals, and you should see your doctor if you're concerned about your mental well-being. Without further ado, I present Levi.
So, my first question is, introduce yourself pretty much.
Hi, my name is Kaitlynne Paul. I'm 19 years old, and I live in White City, Saskatchewan, just outside of Regina. I have 6 younger sisters, and yes, I know that's a lot, but yeah, that's pretty much all I could come up with right now.
Well, hello, welcome. Question 2 is, if you're comfortable, share and walk me through your diagnosis.
Mine was kind of weird, like
what happened?
It wasn't like out of the ordinary weird, but it was just like weird to experience. Because I had like a lot of people, especially my friends, my one close friend, she had told me in high school many times, she's like, you definitely have ADHD. Like, you should go see your doctor and like just check it out. And I was like, nah, no, I do not have ADHD. But then as time went on, I was like, maybe I do. And my parents, I grew up in a very Catholic household with parents who at the time weren't so open-minded to the whole mental health area. And so they would like deny it as much as possible. But anyways, eventually I had to go see the doctor because I had some back pain. And then he noticed that that my foot was bouncing up and down the entire time. And he was like, hang on, just give me a second. He leaves the room, comes back with a sheet of paper, and he's like, I want you to answer these questions. And so I'm answering these questions, and he comes back into the room after I'm done answering them, and he looks at the sheet of paper, and he's like, yeah, you have ADHD. We're gonna start looking at maybe some medication which will help you focus in school, because in school a lot of the time I really struggled with focusing, and after about like grade 9, like my grades just plummeted, and it was a huge hassle a lot of the time, and me just procrastinating and just making up for assignments last minute. And I'm pretty sure a lot of my teachers hated me for it. But yeah, that's how high school looked for me for a lot of the time. But he's like, this will help you focus in school and, help you with your grades, just help you pay attention, and just in the grand scheme of things, for the most part, help you focus. And I was pretty excited about that. My mom took it as a huge shocker because she was like, no, my daughter does not have ADHD. She does not need medication, whatever. She was like, you need some exercise that will help, or go pray. And I was like, okay, Mom. But I did see a huge difference in my grades and the way I could focus and keep up with note taking at school. So that was great. And even at like my job, which at the time I worked as a cashier, and I wasn't like always like looking out the windows in the parking lots and like looking at everything else or paying attention to everything else other than what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah, the whole transitioning phase from like not knowing I had ADHD and and anxiety too. I forgot about that one. Transitioning from not knowing to kind of this like big change, especially with my parents, was kind of a big thing because I don't know, they just weren't really for that, and I guess it
Did
took.
it affect your relationship with your parents at all?
Hmm?
Did you getting a diagnosis affect your relationship with your parents?
Yes, actually. And I think it was mostly because they were in denial, and it took a while for them to come around. But like a good year or so. But after a while, I started introducing them uh, to like videos and podcast talks, whatever, about like ADHD, mental health, anxiety, and just how staying on top of it is really important, and how if you don't, it can get pretty ugly. And at first, they were very, very close-minded to all of that. And in their minds, it was more of a religious issue, and it was more, oh, you don't have a close enough relationship with God. That's why you're struggling with all of this. You should probably pray more. And I was like, no, that's not the issue, but okay.
Would you say that religious aspect that your parents were speaking about, do you think that if you would have taken their route, you would be better or worse in any way, in combination with medication and medically defined coping mechanisms?
Yeah, I think I'd probably be on a much different route than I am now. By a long shot. Words. Um,
If it helps, I can clarify the question a bit more.
Hmm?
I said if it helps, I can clarify the question a bit more.
no, I understand the question. It's just words are absent. Um, so like growing up as a Christian kid, I used to be very, very strong on those beliefs. And, as you get older, like your beliefs change, and like that's normal in my opinion. Um, and then some people go through, that teenage phase and like rebelliousness and whatnot. But that wasn't really the case for me because I'm just gonna hop back before I continue. So like in elementary school, I was a kid who would um, like just pick, well, not pick, but like nitpick other kids and just be like, "You're wrong."
Like you'd beat them physically if they had a different opinion.
No, no, I wouldn't beat them physically, but I just like, just I wouldn't yell at them, but I would just strike these debates because I was raised on, apologetics, which is kind of a way of defending the faith. It's a real thing within the Christian Catholic community. And at the time, that was what I liked to do. I loved having debates and conversations like that. But anyway, so like, uh, just to elaborate, like, just how strongly, like, I was like into this religion. Like, I would say like being gay is bad, abortions are bad, euthanasia is bad. Like, your top three strong conversation topics between someone who isn't Christian or Catholic and someone who is, and ongoing debates that have been going on for I don't know how long, but a long time. And now I'm more on the other side of the coin. So I've been on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, just
I think if I sorry, what?
no, you continue.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, back to your question. Like, I think if I had stayed on that path, I would not be the person I am today for sure, and it would, by a long shot, affect uh, my mental health and how I cope with a day-to-day uh, reality. I probably would have done a lot worse during my last 2 years of high school. Um, and I think a lot of my relationships with like my friends um, probably would be a lot different than they are today. Um, my relationship with my parents would probably be better than it is now because then I'd, be living a life that they live.
So, what does your diagnosis mean to you?
I've actually never stopped to think about that, but I think it was a very eye-opening experience because it's like, oh, I'm not just the weird kid that was, you know, stupid and did crazy things and was really, really weird,
Wait,
especially in
did
elementary
crazy
school. It was,
things or does?
yeah. um, yeah, I'm still pretty weird, but I'm okay with that. Um, but yeah, it wasn't just like, oh my God, I have a mental illness. It was more like, oh, this makes things a little bit more clear. Like it everything isn't so like, why is this going on? It was more like, okay, I realize what the issue is. I can work with it. Here's how I can cope and how I can words. Um just figure it like I forgot my words. But yeah, basically just it helps me, especially in the beginning, like just realize what was going on and why things were going on, and um, it was something that I was very, very capable of handling and making better of the situation.
By making better, what do you mean?
Like, um, like back in school, um, just how I can help focus, or if I am being like super anxious, or I'm about to have an anxiety attack or whatever, or if I am having an anxiety attack, how I can help calm myself down and just bring it from a 10 to just like at least a 2. And, um, or if I'm being impulsive, to just like stop and like take a minute to think, which usually I don't, even though I know I should. And sometimes, even if I do stop to think, like, is this really necessary? Sometimes I'll still be like, whatever, I'm doing this.
You speak a lot about um, how you have to do these things. You have to be better, or call out your own impulsiveness, or not do certain things, or stuff like that. Like, a lot of it seems very independent and very individualized. And I'm not saying that's bad, but do you think, or I should say, do you have a support group that you can fall back on? Or is it mostly you dealing with this?
Um, I do have a support group to a certain degree. Like I was never popular or anything, and I never wished to be popular. I kind of like to stay away from that, to be honest. But my whole thinking in the end is no one is responsible for my actions except myself. Therefore, I must, correct myself. However, I do appreciate, talking to someone about it or getting things off my chest, but I never want someone to feel like they have to fix it because that's not the case. My actions are something that I do, not what someone else does. Therefore, I must, keep myself in check. And it's always great to have friends who, keep you in check and say, like, hey, like, maybe this isn't a great idea. Or I don't know if that was really wise, Kaitlynne, but yeah, for the most part, like, just keep a support group around for getting things off my chest, or, just getting my mind off of things to clear the slate, and then I can come back to myself and say, okay, we're going to do better next time, and we're not going to do that again.
That's fair. Yeah, I definitely get the only you are responsible for your actions, and only you can change what you're doing. I did mean by support group more as, like you said, someone you can fall back on to listen or to speak to or to ask for advice, anything like that. But you spoke about how next time you have to do better, and how how you can recognize your actions, and so think of what you need to change in the future, and that's really good. I'm just wondering, how do you feel if you say do something stupid and you're like, okay, I don't do that again, right? How do you feel if you're in the same situation and then you do said action again? Does that cause you feelings of guilt or anger or frustration, or how do you deal with failing your goal of not wanting to do something?
Honestly, it depends on the situation. But if it's, what I would consider a failure, um, I wouldn't say like I'm extremely hard on myself, but at times I can be. Um, Sometimes it's like, why the heck did you do that? Like that was really stupid. Um, and just I give myself a lot of, what's the word? Not
Negative self-talk?
hype up. Yeah, like a self-talk, yeah. Um, and just, criticize what I do, either in a good way or a bad way. Um, if I'm really upset about it, I'll just put it aside and come back to it later. Um, or other times I'll just go for um, a drive, think about it, yell, scream, cry, whatever I need to do, and just say, do not do that again. That was uncalled for. And then if I ended up, like, if I wronged someone else, I will calm myself down, go back to the person, apologize for whatever I did, try and um, fix the situation, and then everything is good. And then I say, like, okay, we're not going to do this again. Here's some ways we can prevent it, and um, some cautions we can take, yada yada. Um, and sometimes, like, if I just need to like map things out, I'll just take my phone out and I'll start like writing like poetry or whatever, and just use that as a way to like look back and see like, okay, this is what my thought process was. And yeah, just it's kind of a way to map things out, I guess, but in a more fun way. So it's kind of a way to make light of the situation, because poetry is fun, at least for me. Some people find it boring.
Would you say that your diagnoses have not even the illnesses themselves, just the action of you being diagnosed, would you say that has had an effect on your relationships, either platonic or romantic or whatever?
Um, Not necessarily. Like with my friends, like they get it. Like I have ADHD. If I'm like talking about something and then just bouncing around like a ping pong ball from one conversation to the next and just bing, 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 they're like, okay, like just chill out. But they're fairly understanding of that, and like they get like um the whole anxiety thing.
So, I had a whole bunch of other questions. I was thinking of them earlier, and I didn't write them down. So, I'm gonna hit you with the old, what coping strategies do you put in place in your life to help you manage your symptoms?
That's a good question. I haven't been super on top of that lately, which I should be, but I guess that kind of falters into procrastination and everything. So yeah, I procrastinate my own coping mechanisms and procrastinate, doing what I should be doing, even if it's for my own sanity. Probably at least, especially like the last couple months, um, my coping mechanism has been like talking to my boyfriend and saying like, hey, this is going on, like, can we just like have a little rant sesh real quick and just, rant about everything that's going on, and then he'll just like say like, oh well, we can do this, we can work on that. Or sometimes like he'll just try and like distract me or make me laugh, which is pretty great actually. Um, Another coping mechanism is poetry, which I also haven't done a lot, or not as much as I used to. Um, Driving and just like listening to music is a good one, which I know a lot of people do as well. And I don't know, there's just something calming about it, just focusing your attention on something else, but also, reflecting at the same time. I used to have this really bad one, where I would just like binge eat everything. Uh, I don't know why
Tattoos
that
as a
was,
coping mechanism.
but hmm?
I said, I want to normalize tattoos as a coping mechanism.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, I actually fucked up that audio. Okay, so I wanted to ask, do you practice self-compassion, and if not, or if you do, why?
It actually wasn't something that I was aware that I should be doing until I listened to that episode of your podcast, actually. Like
Well, I'm
obviously there's
glad
that
our
like common
podcast
sense
helped
bit
you.
where it's like we should, or I should, probably, be a bit more compassionate to myself, but it wasn't really something that like I ever did. Um, Instead it was more like I'd give myself rewards like, oh, I cleaned my room, I'm gonna watch TikTok now, or go eat some food, or just like little things like that. But for the most part, um, that's kind of something that more recently I've realized that I do need to work on and probably start um, infusing into my day-to-day English day-to-day life.
I'd like a day-to-day life. Come on. You always get to go to the fucking beach? Come on, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'm also half convinced I have verbal dyslexia because I say dumb shit like that all the time. I'll mix words and verbs up and consonants and shit.
ADHD can cause that because our brains are already moving on to the next word, right? And so,
Yeah.
And we have working memory problems, so we can't hold as many things in our head. So then, you're saying one word while you're thinking another.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, we spoke about self-compassion and what it is in our podcast and what it helps us with. And so, it has these different aspects and everything. What was the most attractive part of it to you that made you think, hey, I should be doing this?
It was mostly when you guys were talking about like how you guys like deal with failure, or um stuff like that, and how like you guys realize like you guys shouldn't be so hard on yourselves.
Just like the negative
And
self-talk aspect of it?
yeah. You're just nodding. That's not.
My
But,
headset's turned down almost to 0.
okay. It was worth a shot.
Actually, Steven did that to me the other day. Because we got a bunch of new stuff, but he's got a mic controller, and he fucking cranked my headset, and like, it fucking hurt my ears. I was like speaking regular volume, and he cranked it, and it was like almost like you could hear it across the room out of my headset.
Oh my god.
On my head. But anyways, do you have any plans for secondary education? And if you do, how do you think that you will manage the extra stress of secondary education as well as the year's symptoms?
That aspect of a possible future is kind of a wreck at the moment, so I kind of need to clean it up a bit. I was going to go into education, to be a teacher, but then COVID hit, and I took one
A year
semester's.
off? A year off?
Yeah, well, I took one class for a semester, and it was actually a really great class. It was very interesting, and I had a great professor. She was brilliant, which I loved. But then some things changed, and I was like, I don't know if this is really me, if I really want this for my future. Especially with how the education system's going to be changing so most likely very drastically, especially with this whole like online learning. Yeah, so I'm considering psychology, but I'm also considering some occupations that don't require a secondary education.
That's fair.
But with my whole family moving, it's just kind of a mess right now. So just trying to figure those things out.
The trick is just move away from.
Yeah, or just let them move away from you.
Actually,
which is what I'm doing.
Is there anything else that you would like to talk about? Any questions for me?
Oh, my mind just took a blank right there.
That's fine.
I can't come up with anything.
Fair.
I swear I'm not this boring. I'm not this antisocial. I'm just like, cool, okay.
That's fair. Would you like to see me draw something to the best of my ability?
Yes, I would love to see that.
Oh, actually, how do you feel about your coping mechanism in the use of nicotine?
Oh.
Nicotine is a stimulant, and it is...
Yes.
We talked about this in our medication episode, actually. The exact stats that are there, but it's if you have ADHD, you're more likely to use nicotine, and it's harder for people with ADHD to quit nicotine. So, do you feel you use it as a coping mechanism for your ADHD, or do you think that it's for other unrelated reasons?
It's more for my anxiety to just, calm me down. Same thing with, wait, can I talk about weed on here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you guys want that on here or not. Same thing with weed. Although getting high is more to help me fall asleep. So I'm sober during the day, and then before I go to bed, I'll get high, and then I just pass out because I struggle with falling asleep a lot. And if it gets bad enough, I can go 3 or 4 days without sleep until I finally just crash.
Have you ever been to a doctor about?
I have, and he was like, "Oh, well, you should just stay off your phone." I'm like, I don't go on my phone.
Have you ever considered getting a different doctor?
No, actually.
I would.
Maybe I should.
I would, if I was you, I would have a different doctor.
That's fair.
Because a doctor who does not listen to your concerns or believe you when you are the person with the mental illness or disability, I don't know. I just don't respect them.
Yeah, that's fair. I used to have a therapist, and she told me the same thing. But like, I was like, nah, whatever. Like, he's in town, So it was just more of a convenience kind of thing. But she helped me come up with like ways to help with that. Which did help. Like, I have like soundtracks that I can play that help me fall asleep a bit better. And then there's times where like they just don't work at all because my brain's just bing, 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 bing.
Audio recording to all of your family and friends. Thank you.
Oh God. If you did, I would actually like shit my pants. Probably.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
And then I would just wait until they're gone in another province before I emerge from my room.
Fair.
Oh, my grandma would beat me if she...
Yeah, I don't even know if this will be published or anything, but I'm definitely going to do a follow-up interview, actually read it out, and a bunch of other stuff, and it probably will get posted, so be aware. I'm going to interview for real. It's going to be very in-depth.
So hopefully you guys liked this episode. Make sure to check out our website in the description and subscribe on whatever platform you're on. You'll also find some resources and references we used for this episode in the description. And once again, we are not medical professionals and you should see your doctor if you're concerned about your mental well-being. We'll see you next time.